Geopolitics and Empire is joined by Venezuelan writer Emmanuel Rincón. Welcome to Geopolitics and Empire, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Georgie, I'm trying to pronounce well your name.
It's all right, no problem. Well, I'm used to it. And I recently discovered your excellent channel, your commentary, your writing. You're doing a lot of great work, and it interests me very much as a Croatian American Mexican, and there's a number of listeners as well who are living in Mexico, and Spanish speaking listeners who are very interested in what you've been doing and talking about. And I guess to start, maybe I would start with the big idea that we are seeing in the Western world an attack on our freedoms and the wave of tyranny coming to our lands. You're seeing American and European governments shutting down bank accounts of people, online accounts, the censorship of citizens who think differently. And I believe you have identified one of the central enemies of the West as, socialism, neo-Marxism, cultural Marxism, even globalism. Could you sort of explain to us what is going on from your perspective? What's going on in the Western world, and what's the principal cause or enemy?
I think that the bigger problem right now is big government. I mean, it's like a trend in all the world. Right now, we're seeing people that believe that everything has to be controlled from the government to the people, and not in the other way. We have different kind of socialism. Okay, we live the major catastrophe in Venezuela, when we got right now 90% of the people living in poverty. There is 7 million of people who flee the country because of the socialist policies. Obviously, these socialist policies are not so radical right now in Europe or the US, but we got activists and politicians in these countries trying to move forward to a more radical left agenda, like is going on here in the United States. Today, 100 Democrats in the Congress vote against to a resolution that the Republicans was trying to pass. Well, in fact, they passed it to reject the socialism in the United States. I mean, right now, there is 100 Democrats who believe in socialism in the United States. And this will be like something crazy to think about it, 30 years ago.
The way I view it is, as you mentioned, I would totally agree. Statism everywhere, where the government is just taking control of everything. And I would just see that as another way of saying, as you've been saying, socialism, collectivism, Marxism. And for me, also, globalism is the big problem. For me, I would view kind of what you're saying, globalism, as this statism around the world. They're trying to push this global centralization of power. And I view globalism as having incorporated progressive liberalism and Marxism. I mean, it's no wonder when the World Economic Forum says you will own nothing. That sounds pretty communistic to me. Do you have any thoughts on globalism?
Yeah, and it's like, it's not so funny, but it's like, how is that some people that no one elected is trying to determine policies around the world, and the state governments are like, that bend their knees into this organization that doesn't have any sense. And yeah, right now, there is a difference, and I think that most of the people doesn't understand that one thing is the globalism, and another thing totally different is globalization. That is when the countries they change their goods, and they are in capitalist societies, like growing up their economies. But right now, what we have is like big politicians and big organizations trying to control everything, trying to censor all the information, trying to dictate like how the social media have to run. That the European Union trying to ban or sanction Elon Musk only for trying to apply free speech into their platform. So right now we have people that are centralized in one organization trying to tell us how we have to eat, how we have to spend our money, what we can say in social media, and all that stuff. And this is the beginning of a great tyranny in all the world.
A quick shout out to our sponsors, which you can locate via the sponsor page on geopoliticsandempire.com, or whose links are included in every podcast description. I've tried privacy phones in the past, such as Silent Circle's Black Phone, which turned out to be a dud. The best and really only option so far is de-Googling your phone. Now, you can do it yourself, but I've never had the time to figure that out and simply got an Above phone. They sell de-Googled phones that come with a suite of software. They also provide support and a monthly Above privacy suite with many features such as a unique phone number, encryption, email, VPN, and so forth. If you're looking for a private phone, check out Above Phone. Make sure to click on the Above Phone link on geopoliticsandempire.com or via the podcast description so that we can enjoy a commission. Also, check out the Nomos Time Bank at nomos.net, which you can download in Spanish or English to your Apple or Google or de-Googled phone. Nomos allows people in your community to exchange services using time as a currency rather than fiat money. This will be one great way to survive in the coming algorithm ghetto. If you need health insurance, you can talk to my friend James Guzman of the Borderless blog, podcast, and health insurance. He offers free consultations. Simply schedule a time with him over at borderlesshealthinsurance.com. Finally, you can donate directly to Geopolitics and Empire, consult with me, the host, or become a member to join private monthly member Zoom calls where we shoot the breeze discussing world events. You've commented previously on this, what happened with the U.S. election in 2020 and Trump. And I believe, that it was sort of like a Soros color revolution in reverse. A few months before the election, I had on Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who worked with the Ronald Reagan administration. This is what he was predicting, and I feel like this is what happened. And then I feel like we saw the same situation with Bolsonaro in Brazil. And, you had the January 6th event, and then you have this strange event recently in Brazil where people are protesting, people are being put in jail. That's being used as a pretext for the government to take more power. What's your take on, what happened with Trump and what happened in Brazil with Bolsonaro?
Well, I think that what happened the 8th of January was a shame, because really, I don't think that was necessary. And I think that this only gives more power to the left, because they're going to have, like the story that, well, look, they're trying to coup us. And that is total bullshit, because, there are some, 100, 200, 300 people that doesn't understand, and they went with the stone and sticks and break some windows. And that's a stupid thing that shouldn't have to happen. But in the meantime, now Lula and their party are trying to using this to persecute Bolsonaro and their allies. And Bolsonaro, I don't know if he's planning to return right now to Brazil, because all these things that have been going on in the last months. But it's really, all the international media blame immediately Bolsonaro about what happened the 8th of January. Even when Bolsonaro rejected all those stuff months ago, and even when they rejected a couple hours ago that this happened. So it's really a shame. I don't know. I think that the people on the right have to be more smart, because right now we are in disadvantage with the left, because they control almost everything. They control all the big media. They control all the big organizations. They control the UN, the World Economic Forum. So we have to be more smart in the time that we make politics, because one of the mistakes can cost us like a great leader to be sacrificed, as is the case of Bolsonaro.
That's a great point, and I've been talking on my TNT radio show the past couple months the same thing, that it took a lot of time to build up someone like Bolsonaro, momentum, and then if you lose him, it's like you're screwed. You lose a lot of time, basically, I think, as you're saying. And we're seeing now in Latin America, again, you're from Venezuela. You've talked a lot about the situation in Venezuela. You can tell us more, but we're also seeing a string of left progressive leaders in Latin America, Gustavo Petro in Colombia, Lula now in Brazil, Croatian Chilean Boric in Chile, who wants to take away everybody's guns, AMLO, López Obrador here in Mexico. How do you feel about this trend now in Latin America, and also the fact that they're talking about they want to create a Latin American union modeled on the European Union, and they want to create a Latin American common currency, the SUR, kind of like you've got the euro. Yeah. Well, what do you think on all of this grouping of leaders and some of these ideas?
Well, I think that they want to have like an hyperinflation coin, I think, because that doesn't have any sense. Well, look, in Brazil, they are already trying to take away the guns of the people. I don't know if you heard that yesterday, the government of Lula make an order to the people of Brazil that they have to declare if they have arms in guns in their possession. What is the next step? Obviously, when they got all the data of all the people that have the gun, they're going to say, okay, now you have to give me the guns. So they're right now in this step. And I think that most all the people in Latin America doesn't understand quite well why is so necessary for the people to have not only their only guns, but a free economy. Because when you have a free economy and you have guns, the government can put their foot in your nose. That is something that is going on in some states here in the US. But I mean, the people in Latin America doesn't understand this, and they always let it go with the narrative that only the state should have the guns. But what happened? You know, the criminals always have the guns, and they're not going to throw it away because you indicate one law and say, okay, now the guns are illegal, and the criminals are going to say, okay, well, let's return our guns because now it's illegal to have one. I mean, that's stupid. But most of the people in our country doesn't understand quite well. And I mean, this comes for not only decades, but centuries ago. But if we in our region doesn't understand quite well all this stuff, I mean, how can we be citizens and not a slave of the state? We're going to continue to make this mistake over and over and over again.
I see some of these same problems and feelings here in Mexico. I mean, they've taken away our gun rights here in Mexico. There's only one gun store in Mexico City. You have to fill out so much paperwork to get a firearm. And in Mexico, the caliber of the weapon is low. And even I've had a few conversations with average Mexicans, and they have this feeling like, why do I need guns? And I'm like, what happened to that Mexican revolutionary spirit, right? The Pancho Villa and Zapata and all of this stuff. And, you know, we need guns, and we've got the criminals all around us running around with, AK-40s.
They got narcos in every street.
Yeah. And
they have guns.
And you talked about recently on your YouTube the situation in El Salvador with Bukele regarding the crime there, but also maybe on Peru. That's an interesting situation because Pedro Castillo, who was the leader, was leftist, but he was removed, from my view, by the U.S. empire, U.S. government. There seemed to be also Canadian mining interests involved, but the new leader of Peru, Dina Boluarte, also seems to be close with the World Economic Forum. And so it's just kind of a strange situation. What's your analysis of what happened and is happening in Peru?
Well, you know, in Peru, Pedro Castillo was a school teacher that was a communist, and he came to power, and I think that he didn't expect that. I think that nobody expected that. And I think that in all the months that Pedro Castillo was in the power, he never knew what was going on or why he was here. And you know, Boluarte was his vice president. So, I mean, they are almost the same. But, I mean, Peru in the last 10 years, I think that they already have like 6 presidents, I think. And they always have a big fight between the presidency and the Congress. And I think that this is not something that we can, to try to put the US and Canada or another countries in that fight. I think that is something internal between the forces in Peru. But what I think that is like the more bizarre thing, and the most sad, by the way, is that it's always the left, fighting with the left, and we don't have almost a right in Latin America. So right now, the police is protecting the government, but the communists and all the left in South America, even AMLO, even Petro, even Alberto Fernandez, they're all saying that this is a coup d'etat, and not only that, but they are saying almost that it's like all right that is like defending or killing innocent people. When it's communists killing communists, I mean, it's a bad joke. It's really not funny. But this is what is going on, and this is what is going on along the history of the world. There are almost leftists killing leftists, and they try to blame the all right of doing this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my interpretation with Boluarte, her being a puppet of globalism, which, as I was saying earlier, in my view, a large portion of globalism has this Marxian progressive liberal strain. And just, going back to that, some of your peers, Miklos Lukas, who's been on my podcast, I hope to have him on again soon, Agustin Laje, Pablo Iturrieta, they talk about, the cultural Marxism. And they're really pushing this transgenderism and LGBT-ism. I've had a guest in the past, Jim Jatras, former diplomat, who called it rainbow fascism. We saw recently a man wearing a Jesus T-shirt in a mall in America was kicked out because of that T-shirt. And just this week, it was reported some school children, Catholic school children, which visited the Smithsonian Museum, because they had pro-life hats, they were kicked out. I mean, what kind of America is this? And here in Mexico, politicians, I have read that they've lost their jobs because they've quoted the Bible. Tolerance, right? Teachers are losing their jobs all over America and Europe because they do not agree with this, transgenderism, LGBT-ism. Again, where's the tolerance? And I'm not afraid to say that I think most of the world rejects these norms socially, morally, and spiritually. I've lived in Kazakhstan. I've had these discussions. 95% of the people in Kazakhstan are conservative, socially. They wouldn't agree with this. And in many other countries, I saw a poster recently in Spain where the poster said heterosexuality is not normal, which means it's abnormal. What are your thoughts on the pushing, the use as a weapon, of transgenderism and LGBT-ism, and anyone who doesn't, they're shoving this down our throats and with our children, and if you don't accept it, you're homophobic. But I say, wait, no, you're heterophobic, you're Christophobic, you're not being tolerant, right? It can't be just one way. Your thoughts on some of these things?
I really like that term that you mentioned, the rainbow fascism. I mean, that is what is going on. One of the things that I fear the most is all that is been going on with the kids, because, I'm in the age, I want to have kids soon. And I think that we have to protect the kids at all costs. I mean, I think that there shouldn't be place for this. I don't know why we are even discuss these things. How are even we discussing if I don't know, 5 years old kid can have like all those chemistry in their bodies to try to change his sex? I mean, that doesn't have like really any sense. And yeah, those people that try to say that they are like the most inclusive in the world, they are the ones that are pushing away are attacking all the people that are different than they. And they are a minority. I mean, I don't know what number of the population they are, but they are attacking almost all the world because doesn't think like them. And it's stupid. It's always the same, that when you say something about that agenda, they try to convert you in homophobic or something like that. I mean, that's stupid. One of my best friends is gay. That doesn't have any sense. But every person, every people with a little bit of consciousness know that this is stupid. That you can put the kid in, and discussing these sexual topics. I mean, there is, and I saw yesterday. I don't know if you have this possibility to see the speech of one member of Gays Against Groomers in a board school in Florida. They were saying, I think that every teacher that puts a LGBTQ flag in the classroom should be in jail. I mean, there is no reason why an adult is allowed to have a discussion about sex with the kids of other people. That doesn't have really any sense. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and I've heard some theories that Marxism, for example, they would use before they tried to use the class warfare, but because there was such a middle class, they would have to switch to using sex and race as
because they create the struggles between the parents and the kids. And what is going on next? Well, these kids is going to reject their fathers. They mostly are going to become helpless kids or adolescents without a notion or a family or any values, and they are being demoralized. And then they're going to be left with all their life because they only can hope that the state resolves something for them. Only a politician can solve my problem because I don't work nothing. I don't know how to do anything. And I reject my family, and I didn't learn to do anything because I spent all my childhood struggling with my father because of my sexuality or something else. And that is that is what is going on right now.
And as I understand it, I mean, Marx talked about destroying the family, destroying, property, and basically the state becomes God. And this is what we're witnessing happening. You mentioned demoralization. Again, in one of your past clips, I saw the thumbnail you mentioned Yuri Bezmenov, the Soviet defector who was interviewed, was that 40, 50 years ago by G. Edward Griffin, who I had the pleasure of meeting a decade ago. And
1984 it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 1984. Yeah. And he talks about this demoralization campaign, this subversion. You sort of touched on my next question, which was why so much appeal for this left liberal progressive globalism, however you want to call it, with the young. I guess, I mean, you've talked about it before, where I think the Frankfurt School, but basically they've marched through the institutions and the generation has been completely brainwashed because it's in the entertainment now. All of the entertainment, Netflix, the movies, the schools, it's all propagandized. And you, as a young person, you really can't escape. And so you have no other, way of thinking. This is all the only way of thinking. So the young person is going to think, okay, this is it. I don't see any alternatives. I mean, why are the young such believers in this?
Yeah, I think that is very hard for those people to understand the things in another way because they're being brainwashed every day, every time in their social media, in Netflix, in everything that they see in, I don't know, series, movies, whatever, even in the books. If you go to a bookstore, I don't know how it is right now in Latin America, because I haven't been in Latin America like in a couple of years. But here in the US, if you go to a bookstore, you're only going to see like genderqueer things and racism and all those stuff that, it's only trying to create hate and to create division in the Americans. And yeah, it's really hard for these kids. I think that this is our fight. I mean, if here in the US they are pushing right now to make homeschool for the kids to not be brainwashed in the schools. I think that is like a short-term solution because I don't see that. I mean, this can work for a couple of kids, but this is not going to be massive, and we cannot let that the left took control of the education of the kids around the world. So I think we have to fight for the kids, because if we don't do that, I think that in the next generation we're going to be fucked up.
And yeah, I'm a big proponent of homeschooling, and that movement is growing. But I think you're right, because it's like we take our kids and we escape to the woods or to the caves, and then they can come and get us there. We're just running away and not standing and fighting. And in Germany, homeschooling is illegal. In Croatia, where my other home, where I had been planning to move to, homeschooling is technically not legal. France just recently passed further restrictions against homeschooling. Here in Mexico, we still have this freedom, but again, as you said, tomorrow they can outlaw homeschooling, and then what are you going to do? Did you have? I feel kind of that things are getting bad. We're on this trajectory towards tyranny in the West. It's becoming a dystopia. I had my PayPal account shut off by the government last year, so it's getting pretty crazy. How bad do you think things will get? What does the future look like for you? Do you have any hope?
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be. This is going to be like difficult times, but I think that we cannot lose the hope, because if we bend our knees and we let them to destroy us, we are them. I mean, what else can we do? So I think that we can have the fight. Right now, we got like a great tool that is Twitter that we can use to propagate the truth, that we didn't have that tool a couple of months ago. And I think that a great majority of the people are like opening their eyes. This is something similar that what happens in the past with the hippie movement in the US. They make like a cultural revolution. There were like a lot of people in that movement, but then the people began to realize that their proposal was, doesn't have like any sense. And I think that right now the woke people are losing their battle, because what they are predicating is atrocious. That doesn't have any sense. And I think that this is obviously a fight between the good and the wrong. And I think that we are going to win this.
That's a positive note. I was going to ask you a final thought, but I think that's a great a final thought. Is there, where's the best place? I know you got a couple of books. You've got a novel, a nonfiction book in Spanish. I'll include all of your links in the description, but just for you to let us know, where are the best places to find you online?
Well, in my social media, obviously, my Twitter account is Emmanuel Rincón, and my books. I've been selling it in Amazon, in every place of the world. You can have it in digital or print copies. And right now, I'm working with some agencies in Spain and another one in Mexico. I'm going to try. We are trying to have like a more bigger distribution of my books in those countries. So I think that is going to be well for the next year.
All right. Yeah. You've got a YouTube channel as well. And again, everyone be sure to follow Emmanuel on Twitter, YouTube. Check out his books if you speak Spanish. And again, thank you for being on Geopolitics and Empire.
Thank you, my friend.
I hope you enjoyed this Geopolitics and Empire podcast. The website is geopoliticsandempire.com, and I encourage you to sign up to the free email list that notifies you of every new podcast and other important updates. The email list and website are our last lines of defense. We're being censored and deplatformed. It's almost impossible to find Geopolitics and Empire on the Google search engine. We've been blacklisted. YouTube frequently strikes videos. Facebook restricts our page. Reddit, Twitter, and LinkedIn take down posts. After the Associated Press mentioned Geopolitics and Empire in a 2021 article co-written with NATO, or the Atlantic Council, our Patreon account was terminated. Vimeo also terminated our Pro account at one point. In April of 2022, the Department of Homeland Security had PayPal ban us for life. The best free way to help Geopolitics and Empire is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or elsewhere and subscribe to all of our media channels. You can find the video broadcast now on 5 platforms: Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble, BitChute, and Brighteon. You can find the audio broadcast on the entire podcast ecosystem: SoundCloud, Apple, Spotify, and so on. My current favorite social media channels are Twitter and Telegram, but you can also find us on Gab, MeWe, Minds, Float, VK, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can support this guerrilla signal by donating via DonorBox, Buy Me a Coffee, Subscribestar, or Crypto. You can purchase a consultation with the host to talk about expatriation, geopolitics, or podcasting. You can also become a monthly or annual member via Stripe and receive benefits such as partaking in a monthly member Zoom call, get access to a weekly recording of my random thoughts, and a private Telegram channel. Thank you for listening.